Today, I'm joined by Tony Beales, a very well-known estate agent from Norfolk, who's on most of the estate agents' social media platforms and is very well thought of in the industry. He joins me today on the Watkins sofa for him to tell me his estate agency story. Thanks for joining me today, Tony.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's an honour to be here.
The pleasure is all mine. The pleasure is all mine, my friend. So what I'd like to do is do your estate agency story, Tony, if that's okay. So I want to roll back. You were born in the mid-60s. I know you don't look it, bless you.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. We're off to a good start.
As you were growing up in the early 70s, did you know what you wanted to be, or?
I had absolutely no idea.
Astronaut? Yeah.
Astronaut, footballer. Kevin Keegan was my hero at the time. So, yeah.
Of course. So if you were born in 66, Keegan was really strong in the late 70s, wasn't he?
Yeah, very much so. And obviously a close affection with Norwich City Football Club, and my favourite player at the time was Ted McDougall. And I remember we went on a family trip down to Bournemouth, and he had a sports shop down there, and I was just totally in awe of being in his sports shop.
So an actual footballer was. I mean, what division were Norwich in at the time?
They were sort of pretty much as they are now, actually, sort of yo-yoing between what was then the League Division 1 and Division 2. So.
And what made you go and follow Norwich? Was that a family thing?
Yes, my dad was a keen Norwich fan. His dad was a keen Norwich fan, so it's only natural, really, that I should be a Norwich fan as well. And my son's also a Norwich fan.
Go the Canaries! I think that's what
absolutely yes. Yeah. And they won on Saturday, so that's all good.
Excellent.
Great stuff.
What did your father teach you as you were growing up?
Oh, crikey! A lot, in fact. Life, practical. He was very practical. He was a BT engineer at the forefront of his profession, but a lot of practical skills. And he was kind of like a genius, because whilst he had the job that he did with BT and laying cables and things like that, which was, I suppose, the start of the internet and stuff like that, you know, way back in the day, in the early days. But he was also very good, you know, like building. I mean, he built the extension on the house. He built a detached double garage. He was great with electrics and stuff like that. He was, you know, so he, you know, tried to impart obviously a lot of his knowledge on me. And an example of that was my wife and I took to cycling a few years ago, particularly sort of during the pandemic and just before. And she got a puncture. And I thought, oh my God, how can I mend this? I'd already put sort of gator tires on mine so that avoided the puncture. And I just remembered my dad was able to, you know, what he taught me when I was growing up, how to mend a puncture on a bike. Basic elementary stuff, but, you know, that knowledge sort of came really handy, and I sort of like did it as though it was sort of second nature.
What did your mum teach you as you were growing up?
How to cook.
Are you a bit of good cook?
Oh, yeah, I love it.
What's your signature dish?
If
you're trying to impress?
I'd probably say a Sunday roast, actually, because I cook them so many times. But, you know, I like to sort of follow recipes off like Waitrose recipe cards and things like that.
Is that your kind of away from family? I mean, obviously cooking with families, but is that your passion in life? Cooking? I know you're a bit of a sports freak, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy putting a meal together from scratch, and seeing the end product and tasting it and having a real good, you know.
I always find it that if someone else cooks it, it always tastes better than you cooking it yourself. I don't know why that is.
People do say that, actually, yeah. But yeah, obviously aside from that's probably my main one. Obviously, as sport, I've got lots of interests, but I really do enjoy that.
Did you have any brothers and sisters growing up?
Yeah, I've got a brother, John, and he works in London and is involved with media and so forth.
So you're a Norwich. It's Norwich where you come from. Is that hometown?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Although I grew up in Essex, so I'm a Norfolk boy when it suits. I'm an Essex boy when it suits.
And do you know Delia Smith? Because obviously
I've had a picture with Delia Smith at Norwich City Football Club.
Is she still involved with the club?
Yes, she is. Yeah, her and her husband. So
were you at that fateful game when she'd had a few glasses of wine?
I wasn't actually. No. Let's be having you.
So You went through your teenage years. Any part-time jobs or anything like that?
Yeah, I had paper round from the age of about 12 or 13, up every morning early and in all weathers to go and deliver the paper rounds. And I had a competitive edge even then because it was just a case of getting it done as quickly as I possibly could because then I had to get home, get changed, and then get down to the station to get the train to go to school. So, yeah, there was urgency required there.
So you must have been one of the last cohort that were doing O levels,
Yes,
or pretty close to
yeah,
it.
yeah, that didn't end well.
Why did they not end well? Your O levels, which is GCSEs, everyone, for those who are who've got a 4 or less in front of their age.
Yeah, just wasn't really academically tuned in. I was preferred the sport side of things, running, athletics. So yeah,
Did you want to do your A levels?
no, not really. I don't know really what I wanted to do, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the careers office was next to useless at school, so and I think they put me into hotel catering, which at the time I didn't really have a passion for cooking anyway, because I was still living at home. I was still a young lad, so.
What did your parents say to you when you flunked your O levels?
I went back to Colchester Institute then to do the resits, which didn't really end that well either.
Why not?
Again, I mean, 16, 17 mates going to rock gigs and stuff like that down the pub. Yeah, it wasn't sort of really.
Okay, so if O levels and academia wasn't for you, what did you end up doing?
I come from a farming background originally, so I was encouraged by my parents to
Go and get a job.
go into agriculture basically because I'd had a few part-time weekend jobs, sort of mucking out and feeding and stuff like that. So and holiday jobs as well. So I mean, I'm not practically. I mean, these hands weren't made for being practical. So basically, it was a case of that's all I knew. And then I ended up getting a place at Agricultural College in Writtle and did a practical and moved away. I moved up to Lowestoft to have a year's practical on the farm, which I hated.
What's that?
It just wasn't me. Yeah, lots of accidents. And I remember one time I was on this tractor spraying a field with big old arms on the fertilizer spreader. Went to turn the corner and clipped the arm off by hitting a tree. The farmer was not amused, and he sent me the next day to the UEA to an agricultural conference. I think just to get me out of his sight. I think so. Yeah, it wasn't great, and I ended up jacking that in the January. I only got about 6 months, or no, about 4 or 5 months into the practical. It's like, yeah, this has got to end.
So let me guess, you went home and your mum says you best get a job.
Very true. Yeah. Oh, huge amounts of peer pressure there. Yeah, absolutely. Have you been down the job centre? Have you been down the job centre? Have you got any interviews? Because all my mates were at sixth form and that, so that's the last thing I wanted to do. I was living rent free at home, so great days.
So don't tell me, let me guess. You saw an advert in the paper like the rest of us and said, oh, that'll keep me going.
For a state agency, or just I had to apply for anything. I literally had to apply for anything. I had to go down to the job centre, and there was two jobs that I.
So this was in mid '80s, so we had YTS at the time, yeah.
Very much so, yeah. This was about January '84. So yeah, I went down to the job centre.
Unemployment was quite high.
Yeah, we were in recession, I believe, at the time as well.
Just coming off the back of quite high inflation.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And so I went down to the job centre. They gave me 2 jobs. One was for a wood yard, working in a wood yard, timber merchants, and the other was an estate agency. So I went to both interviews. Mum took me down to Burton's Menswear and decked me out in a very nice 3-piece suit. And yeah, I went to the timber merchants interview, and I thought, yeah, thought I'd done really well. I really wanted that job. I could see myself working there. Also went to the estate agency job as well, and I just didn't have a clue. I didn't even know what a mortgage was. They asked me that was one of the questions, and I said, I haven't got a clue. I don't know. Anyway, I was round at my mates on the following Friday, and Mum phones me up at my mates, which is always awkward when your mum phones, one of your mates' houses, and said, you know, can you tell Anthony to come home straight away? So I got my bike, push bike home.
What have I done now?
Yeah, what have I done now? Yeah, she didn't say what it was all about. She said, Mr. Williams has been on the phone from the state agency. You've got to give him a call. So I gave him a call. They offered me the job there and then. And I thought, oh, great. I really wanted the timber merchant's job. But anyway. So,
Just now, you could have been, it's that sliding door moment, you
Yeah.
could have been Norfolk's leading timber
I
merchant.
could have been, yeah. Or Essex at the time. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah. You could have had the whole of East Anglia. That
Yeah.
could have been yours.
Yeah, it could have been. But no, it wasn't to be.
So you fell into a state agency like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Scary, isn't it?
February the 17th, I think it was, 1984.
So, what was your first few years? I'm assuming you were office junior.
Office junior, yeah.
Photos, or did you have that old
Do you know
machine?
what? Do you know what, Chris? I remember very vividly having worked 4 or 5 months hard labour on the farm in all weathers, being it brutal. It was really, tough. And I couldn't believe that I was sitting in a very nice, warm first floor office overlooking Colchester High Street. Secretary sitting opposite me, and I was putting pieces of paper into an envelope, and I was being paid to do it. I couldn't get my head around that. I still to this day think to myself,
Through the franking machine.
through the franking machine, yeah, and we had all the brown envelopes and the photocopier as well, and
Sticking the photographs?
no, we had the black and white screen dots that went on, and then when it went through the photo, to keep costs down. We have mini prints and at that company anyway. Not in those days. We maybe did. I think we had for the higher end properties, but yeah.
And then a few years later, you you moved firms and were, wait for it, junior neg. Whoa.
Yeah, don't have those titles these days, do they?
No, I think-
yeah, it's junior
So
negotiator.
you had just turned 20.
Yeah, you just turned 20, and
Did you get your company car at that time, or was that a little bit later? That's when you got Value, was it?
That was when I moved up to the next company after. I was only at that particular firm for a couple of months, if that.
So why only a couple of months before you moved on to become a Value, or was it the plan is that?
It was purely and simply because I didn't feel as I was getting on very well at that particular company in Whittam.
Did they promise you some?
No, it wasn't anything to do with that. I was always going to work for Struck Daughters, and I'd got fed up with where I was working beforehand, and that was just pretty much a stopgap.
Why were you always going to work for Struck Daughters?
Because I knew the owners, because they were just literally around the corner from where we were in Colchester. So when I worked for Taylor's, Struts were just literally just around the corner, and we used to sort of have quite a few conversations and stuff like that.
So you became a Valuer neg?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and opened the Chelmsford office in April 1986.
As a 20-year-old?
Yeah.
Branch manager or Valuer?
No, I was just a valuer stroke neg. I'd never actually listed before, so it was a.
Can you
it's a
remember
fast
going
learning
on your
curve.
first free val?
Yeah. 10 Petunia Crescent, Springfield.
It's funny how we all do remember our first
Yeah.
valuation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Well done.
Took us about a year to sell it, I think, but yeah, we did. I did get
That
it.
was a short. That in them days, that was quite a quick sell.
Yeah.
That was. When did you start to fall in love with the state agency at this time, or was it just a job that paid for the?
Yeah, very much so. Because I mean, obviously, I'd been sort of, working the negotiator role for a couple of years, and obviously having sort of had the farming experience and the poor experience with my O levels and school and so forth. State agency sort of seemed to give me that confidence booster. And Alex Smith from Struts said to me, when I remember I went round to drop off a letter, I think it was a sub instruction. I don't know those these days either. And I was handing a sub instruction, and he asked me to tell me a little bit about it. And he said, "You can really sell, can't you?" I said, "Can I?" I had no idea. And I think that sort of that was one of the first things that really boosted my confidence and gave me the feeling and belief that I could be successful at this.
Do you think the fact that the farm was hard work and you flunked your O levels made you fall in love with the state agency?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you talked about my father earlier. And my dad, whilst he taught me a lot, he was quite a hard man to please. And I actually ended up taking my maths O level 4 times just to pass it, just to prove to him that I could do it. So I had that determination. And the fourth time I didn't even need it, but I still took it anyway. And actually, the company that I was working for at the time, Taylor's, actually gave me a bit of leave, study leave, to be able to get to pass it, which I spent round at my mate's house at a swimming pool. And then I passed. So actually, I should have done that with all my O-levels.
Struts got taken over in '88
Yeah.
by Connells.
Yeah.
That must have been when they had their checkbook out, because a lot of them were buying them in the '80s.
Very much so. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Did things change?
Yeah, because by that time I had then already been made branch manager at Felixstowe. We took over a company on the outskirts, well, right by the
Had you
seafront.
moved home by this time, or did you travel every?
No, I was living. No, I'd moved out. I bought my own house at that particular point.
Quite, you were 21, 22 and you bought your first house.
Yeah, well, we were all buying houses.
Everyone was buying houses.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Absolutely scary sell, but everyone in the 80s,
Yeah.
you bought your first house at 21, 22.
yeah, I remember my mum
In
and
fact,
dad.
21, 22 was considered quite old.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think I was 20 when I actually agreed the purchase. I was about 21 when it sort of went through, and then moved
Two
in. I
up
had no
down terrace?
intention of moving out either.
Two down terrace, like the rest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I drove past it the other day actually when I was down in Essex. So yeah, it's still there. But yeah, and my mum and dad at the time said, you don't want to be buying a house at your age. It's you don't want to become a rate payer and things like that. And I thought, yeah, no, I do. So I did, and that was it.
So running Felixstowe, Connells took over. Did things change?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
yeah.
obviously, you said you love Strut Daughters. You said it was meant to be.
Yeah, I liked
family environment.
Struts was great. I mean, it was yeah, it really gave me that sort of confidence and belief that I could really make a good a career out of the estate agency. I enjoyed that.
And who at Struts actually did you look up to? I know you already mentioned one person. Is there anyone?
Yeah, I mean, Alec and obviously Paul Smith still very much involved in the industry, but Alec was great, and obviously I've got a lot of time.
Is that where Paul Smith came from art?
Yeah,
Came from Strut.
yeah.
Wow.
Right back in those.
So you worked with him when
Yeah,
you was younger?
yeah.
You similar age? Is he slightly older?
No, I think he's a bit older than me.
He is a bit older than you. Yes, he is. No, small way. No,
Yeah.
small world, isn't it?
And then we came together a bit later on in the journey, which I'm sure you'll come to.
As is the want of all corporates, they like to mix things up a bit. So they moved you back to Chelmsford.
Yeah, I
Connells.
achieved really good success over in Felixstowe, and we were a top performing branch, and because obviously I lived in Essex, they then moved me back to Chelmsford to take over as branch manager.
Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was quite a surreal time really, because that was
Just before the crash, wasn't it?
Yeah,
88,
that was 1988. So, and then we had, I think, in the budget of that year, in the March, I think Nigel Lawson
Yeah, the dual
announced
Maris.
that they were going to withdraw the dual Maris and just have it single. But he set a deadline, and that deadline was August 1988. So the market went absolutely mad with house purchases. And we had obviously a record number of exchanges and completions in that particular August, and that was then that they then started to increase the interest rates to curb the house price inflation, which had I think escalated something like 79% from 1982 to 1988 or 89.
And then it went pop.
It very much did go pop, yeah, and it was really challenging, and certainly that period onwards was very difficult.
What did you do differently to try and make sure that the business was going okay, even when it did go pop? Because you'd never obviously experienced that before when you were branch manager.
Yeah, it was difficult getting everyone on side. I mean, obviously, with the market how it was back then, and the challenges that we faced, we had to be really sort of proactive, and get prices right, because obviously it slowed down. Interest rates had risen quite considerably. Pretty much again what we're doing now, really.
So why aren't you still there? Why are you not like a divisional director for Connells?
Oh, the corporate life wasn't for
Did
me.
it kind of move in slowly?
I'd already had a very brief experience of corporate life and didn't like that, and then when we were obviously a low point obviously at that particular time was that, I don't mind admitting it, I struggled. I did struggle. We weren't making the numbers and doing what was.
So you're getting hassle from the above,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
were other
yeah.
branches making the numbers?
Some were, in different parts. I mean, obviously, other areas were perhaps doing better. Other areas weren't doing quite so better. But because obviously it was a flagship branch in Chelmsford, I think it had that level of expectation about it. So it was difficult. And
But you were only 23 at the time.
yeah, I was, 23.
What do you think you'd have done differently with what you knew now, if you were talking to your 23-year-old back person?
I think I would nowadays. I mean, I would be a lot more. I would have more confidence about being able to sort of handle a situation. And
But what would you tell your 23-year-old self if you went back in time for like 2 minutes? Sorry, you don't mind me asking that. I just like to ask that.
no, that's fine. I think I would tell myself that I needed to be stronger, have more belief, more self-belief, and believe in what you're doing.
Does that belief that you have now just come from the fact is that you're just older and wiser, you're longer in the tooth,
Yeah,
no hair,
100%.
grey hair?
I've got I haven't got much hair at all, to be honest with you.
No, I'm being complimentary.
Oh, thank you very much. I think the experience that I've had over the last sort of best part of 40 years in a estate agency has set me up very nicely to deal with what we're currently experiencing. And, so are there things I'd have done differently? Well, yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But these experiences that they make of the man, don't they?
They do. I mean, what advice would you give to someone who's in their late 20s, who's branch manager, say, who's worried about what's the next few months and years are going to?
I think you've just got to believe in yourself and believe in your strategies and have the confidence and conviction to see it through, and be strong.
And can that be done solo, or do you have to surround yourself with?
I think you need to have the right people around you, 100%. You really need to have the right people around you.
And how do you ensure that the team are motivated to, because people want their boss to almost be the standard bearer?
Yeah, I think you've got to lead from the front basically, and lead on the front foot, and enable your team members to engage and embrace what you're talking about, and what you want to achieve, and why you want to achieve it. And it comes down to something that I mention a lot, which is purpose, accountability, and continuity. And I think if people recognize what their purpose is and they're accountable, and you engineer the continuity, you will succeed.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, definitely.
Now, unfortunately, you were kind of levered out.
Yeah. I mean, it was tough. But
How did they do that?
I think they bought one of their previous, because obviously they took over when they took us over. I think I can't remember how many branches we had at the time, but they kind of like infiltrated their Connell's personnel into our organisation, and they brought one of their respected members of staff in to kind of like oversee it. And my time was done basically then.
Did you leave, or did they ask you to leave?
I think I left. Yeah, no, they didn't ask me to leave. They did definitely, but yeah, I left. And
How did you feel?
I felt, I was low, to be quite honest with you, because obviously that was, I suppose, it was a big disappointment.
So you weren't made redundant, but they kind of forced you out.
Yeah, I don't know whether I don't think they forced me out, but I think that they basically
made it uncomfortable for you to
Yeah, I suppose so. And I think that that was it. And I needed a new challenge, but I think also as well. So
how did you get over that?
Um,
And what tips would you give to someone, because there's going to be people listening or watching to this who are going to be in the same position as you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, at that particular time, I was quite relieved of having been relieved of my duties, if that's the correct expression. But I just needed time to let the dust settle, gather my thoughts. I mean, I was only a young boy at the time, so but it was a case of really just sort of putting together sort of like and collecting everything up in my head, and then, you know, moving forward again. So yeah, I mean, but you have to have bad times to appreciate the good times, and I always told myself that, and I still do today, to be honest with you.
So you had a mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
What did you go and do?
Well, obviously, as we've just talked about, interest rates were high at that particular time. They were talking about 14%,
15.
15%. So yeah,
15%.
I went to sell kitchens, bedrooms, and bathrooms,
Door to door.
door to door, commission only,
That sorts.
at a time of recession.
What did you learn?
What did I?
You know, that, I mean, that is pure business generation.
Yeah,
You know, the vast majority of people watching, they say, oh, I'm not going to go door knocking in a
Yeah.
estate agency.
yeah.
What did you learn?
Oh, that taught me so much. It taught me so much. It taught me the value of a lead, because you had to self-generate your own leads. So I would go down to the local printer, get a big box of leaflets printed up, leaflet drop 1960s, 70s housing estates, and then go back about a week later and say, knock on the door, did you get my leaflet? Would you like a kitchen design or a bedroom design? And a few people said yes, they would. And
How did you, you know, estate agents, the type of personality type, because if you don't mind me saying, you're not a normal estate agent.
okay,
That's a compliment, by the way.
thank you.
The vast majority of estate agents, in terms of their personality profile, that they're outward going people, and they want everyone to love them, and they use their people skills on the proverbial sofa to get the business.
Yeah.
But their biggest fear is rejection. How did you learn to love the word no?
In relation to what, kitchens, bedroom, bathroom, or just generally
It's
now?
generally, isn't it? It's the same, isn't it? Because if you think about it, now in the estate agency, what you learnt with door knocking with kitchens and bathrooms,
Yeah.
bedrooms,
How did I learn to accept the word no?
because estate agents hate that word, don't they? I mean,
They very much
values.
so. Yeah, yeah, definitely so. And I think it's something that I saw on a Tom Panos video fairly recently, actually, is that you have to build it into your mindset. You have to accept it. You know, when I was younger, and I'd sort of just taken over Millbanks, you know, if I'd have lost an instruction for whatever reason, you know, I'd get really, you know, I would get really upset about it and take it really personally. And what have I done to upset these people? Why haven't they gone with me? And, you know, and I take it really personally. But I think as I've got older, I've learnt to understand that you don't win every single instruction. And, you know, some people may go with a specific agent because they've maybe bought through that agent, or maybe that there's a relationship there, or maybe they know them, or a friend of a friend of a friend, or whatever. And I think you have to work with what you've got, and I think that you can't win everything. And I think that was one of the how I what enabled me and helped me to accept the word no.
It's interesting though. You said you were selling door to door and learning to love rejection there, but when you did eventually set up your own agency in '94, by the sounds of it, you hadn't learnt it, or you hadn't reflected.
Oh no, I hadn't learned it. I hadn't learned it. No, I mean, I can remember doing knocking a big house in, I think it was Stratford St Mary on the Essex-Suffolk border, and I've got a kitchen design out of them, and I think it was going to be about a 20 grand kitchen, which back then was huge, and they went next door and signed up and went with a different kitchen company, and I was absolutely mortified, you know, but it goes with the territory, I'm afraid.
You were then in 1990 brought back into the fold of estate agency.
Yeah,
Why is that?
I missed it. I really missed it.
It is like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
Absolutely, and I think, yeah,
I miss it as well. I'd love
I
to
know
get
we've
back
had these
in.
conversations in the past, haven't we?
The
Yeah,
wife would divorce me, by the way.
sorry?
The wife said she'll divorce me.
I love it. And I that year out, I did miss it, and I thought, you know, and I think for me going back into it in 1990 and to be invited, you know, by John Paul and Alec to be part of the original setup of Spice McColl back in Cambridge, it was an honour really, because these guys had obviously achieved huge success, and they obviously saw something in me that would enable the new company to lift off, and we did hugely well. But I tell you what, from having done that year of kitchens, bedrooms and bathrooms, like I said just now, it really gave me the appreciation of a lead, because when you have to work so hard to get a lead, and you have to really nurture and look after that particular customer, when you then go back into a estate agency and you're getting loads of
leads, because we really are appalling at it in the estate agency, aren't we?
absolutely, yeah. So, and I think that is, and let's face it, we pay a lot of money for our leads. Whether they come off the back of a for sale board, that still has to be paid for. Right move, that has to be paid for. Anything, it all has to be paid for. So it's being able to appreciate and maximise the opportunity.
So what made you want to set up your own estate agency? You were 28.
Okay. So that was the other low point. Things didn't work out when, we had a great couple of years at Spices, and I moved to Norwich, we opened the Norwich branch, but that didn't, and that was a tough time, 93, 94.
Very doldrummy sort of market.
Yeah, absolutely so. Absolutely.
It was neither up nor down. It was just bloody hard work.
It was tough. It was really tough. And Norwich was a really tough market as well at that time. But we went up there and, we opened, I think it was about the August, September time, something like that. Yeah, it was the start of the football season. We had...
Did you move to Norwich?
I'd already moved to Norwich at that particular point, yeah. We opened it up, and we hit it hard. We were very proactive, but I think it came round to sort of like 6 to 7 or 8 months later, and I think it was felt that perhaps my efforts weren't as good as what they perhaps should have been, and
Did it kind of feel like a deja vu at this point? Hello.
Definitely so. Yeah, and it was always in my sort of thoughts that I'm good at what I can do when I'm out valuing and stuff like that, but when I've got pressures of management on my shoulders, I find it really difficult. Well, I found it really difficult. Really difficult.
Because I've run a big city centre branch for the Halifax, and you're looking after the team. You're not doing a estate agency as such, and then you're getting the pressure from above because you're not hitting the numbers, especially if you're in a big branch, big city centre branch like Norwich. It's going to be like that.
And I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head there, because, and I looked at this and I thought to myself that when I was working in Chelmsford as branch manager, and then obviously working, as director in charge at Norwich, big city offices, and I just didn't. I think I always felt that, I don't know, I just felt out of my comfort zone. I'll be honest with you, I felt out of my comfort zone, especially after the Norwich situation. And then I look back and I think, why was I successful in Felixstowe? Really successful, because it was a smaller community. So that then made me think that when things didn't work out for me in Norwich and I then left, I had nothing to go on to. But I thought to myself, where's the next stage in my progression? I've been a director in charge at Norwich. What do I do? Do I go and work for someone else as a neg or a branch manager, or do I set up on my own? And I'm all for moving forward. So that was the logical next step.
So you bought an existing firm in Attleborough, which is a small town south of Norwich.
Very much so, just on the A11.
Why did you not set up your own agency with your own name? Or was it just happened to be for sale? And
so I did actually look at opening a branch, actually.
Got a nice feel to it. Beales estate agency.
Yeah, well, I did actually look at opening up a branch in Norwich, but for one reason or another that didn't materialise. But I had all the branding done, and I was actually going to call it David Anthony Estate Agents, which is my first and second name reverse round. Had it all done, the whole lot, and it didn't. There was a problem, and it didn't go ahead. And I thought, oh crikey, I'm really now. 3 months I've been sort of like living off savings. I'm not sure how much longer I can carry on. And by complete fluke and coincidence, living in Norwich, I normally go down the A140 to get to Colchester. This time I went, and I've never done it
Another
since.
sliding doors moment.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I thought, well, I'll go via Beccles, which is sort of like along the across the top and then down. And I thought, I'll just go past where I used to work on the farm and just have a little trip down memory lane. And I thought, well, I'll pass through Loddon while I'm going. Loddon's between Beccles and Norwich, and yeah, so I thought I'll pass through Loddon. Anyway, I saw an empty shop, and I thought, yeah, I'll take down the gnome and give him a ring when I get to my mum's. And I saw another one in Beccles. So I took that number as well. Thought, yeah, I could work in these little places. Drove down, rang the guy up when I got to my mum's. It was a Friday afternoon, about 5:15. The guy was still there, and he said, no, you won't get planning permission on those two shops. Definitely not. He said, but if it's an
Because in
estate,
them days, it was different plan permission, wasn't it?
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
A2?
Yeah, A2. Yeah, that's right. And he said, "Yeah, you won't get planning permission on those." And he said, "Is it an estate agency you're looking to do that?" I said, "Well, yeah, it is really." He said, "Well, would you be interested in a going concern?" I thought, "Wow, have I won the lottery or what?"
Ka-ching.
And I said, "Yeah, that would be great if there is one going." And the Millbank's office, they were trying to sell the whole freehold of that.
What did you ring? Was it Millbanks that you rang?
No, it was a business transfer agent.
Oh,
I
business
believe,
transfer. Oh, fair
Loddon,
dues then.
in Loddon. And he said, if it's an estate agency that you're looking for, I've got one. And he said to me that they'd been literally trying to sell the whole freehold. And I think they wanted about 125 for the whole lot. I had a flat above it and everything. I said, well, I wouldn't be interested in that. I couldn't afford that. I said, but I'm willing to take a lease. And I think they made a few calls. And yeah, so basically I bought out the going concern with the office, and yeah, that was. And I think the deal was agreed on that. When was it? It was 84, so that would have been about November, and the deal was done within about 6 weeks, and I completed.
94.
No, yeah, 94. Sorry, yeah, December 94, and it was completed just before Christmas, 23rd of December.
So you were 28 years old,
Yeah,
keys to an estate agency.
yeah,
Was it like a dusty old brand that had been around forever?
yeah,
One man band,
yeah,
couple of negs. Or
yeah.
one
The
neg?
office had damp in it. It was an old big patterned carpet. I mean, I never met David Millbank, who was the business that I bought it from his estate, and but he ran a really traditional estate agency, very old
So he
school.
passed away, had he then?
He passed away in the February before.
And had his staff just been treading water?
His daughter ran it, and she worked for me for an initial transition period of 3 months. Yeah, that was
Do you think it was meant to be?
yeah, 100%, definitely so.
What have you learnt in those 29 years running your estate agency?
I don't think we've got that long, have we, Chris?
I mean, you've been through one big crash in '08.
Yeah,
You know, you had the good times.
yeah, had good times. Yeah, we had the financial crash. We're now obviously going through another one now. Then what obviously we learned in the crash in 88, 89, and also when I came into it in 84. So yeah, there's been a lot of tough times, but I think it's all character building stuff, and it's enabled me to learn significantly.
What advice would you give to someone starting their own estate agency today?
Keep your costs low. Very much so. I had this spreadsheet because we didn't have computers back in 94 or whatever it was. I had this written out spreadsheet of what I was expecting to do and what my costs were going to be. And it was kind of like about up there. And in reality, it was probably about down there. But yeah, I think but always believe in yourself, never doubt yourself, stick to your convictions, and just keep an eye on your costs.
What other advice would you give? Because I mean, there's only so much you can do on costs. What about growing your agency? What have you learnt over the years on that?
Over the years, I mean, obviously, I think nowadays compared to when I started Millbanks in December '94, prospecting now is incredibly a lot easier, I suppose, because I mean, all we had to go on back in the day was like probably a canvas letter, and that was pretty much it. You'd identify the properties by either for sale board or a picture in the newspaper, or looking in the agent's windows. But I think prospecting is a lot easier now because there's so many different platforms that are available, and obviously you've got the internet and you've got all the data that's available as well. So I think that, but I think prospecting is huge.
Do you think it's easier to open an estate agency today than it was back in the 90s? Or was it just different challenges?
I think it's different challenges personally.
And you know, you're in your mid-50s now. If you don't mind me saying, what's the future
For me or for the industry?
for you?
For me, I really love and get a real kick out of what I do. And people have talked to me about exit plans and stuff like that. I don't really have one, to be quite honest with you.
Are you just enjoying the journey?
Yeah, I still enjoy it. I still get a huge buzz out of it. I mean, I did a valuation on, or an MA as we call them nowadays, on Friday.
It's still a vowel.
Yeah, it's still a vowel, isn't
You
it?
kids market appraisals.
Yeah, it's still a
there
vowel.
you go. So that's just free. So
Yeah,
vowel.
and you know, provided great advice, and you know, the owners thanked me, and I put another property on the market a couple of months ago, and the owner said, "You've done such a great job of promoting and marketing of our property," and so I you know, I love it. I still
Where do
love
you get
it.
your kick from?
Helping people.
So it's not the listing. It's not winning one over the
Yeah,
competition.
yeah. It's I mean, it's sort of, you always like to do that, don't you? But I think it's helping people. It's enabling people to, the next chapter of their journey, and we're just a sort of like
We are very lucky,
we're a
aren't we?
stepping stone, really, aren't we? We help them.
We are very lucky to help people move from one chapter of their life to
Absolutely,
another.
yeah, and we try and do it in the most professional way we possibly can to enable them to, to have a good experience. And I think in estate agency now, it's more important for that level of concierge service, more so now than it was 10, 20, 30, even 40 years ago. It really is, because I think nowadays the property market is, and everything, all industries, you know, we're under the microscope. We're in a goldfish bowl. Everything's very transparent now. So you have to make sure that you're absolutely on top of your game, and that you dot your I's, you cross your T's, and you provide excellent service, world class.
You've got a great team. You've got Dee, your wife, who's lovely, and you've got a great team as well. What do you put your success down to those two?
Yeah, I mean, Dee's been amazing. She's very supportive. We work very well together. And my team in the office, I think any successful business, industry, whatever, has to have, it's all about people. And this is why when I rebranded Millbanks, connecting people with property, people is the most important element out of all of it. And I think that, if you've got good people within your organisation that you can trust, and who have the same feelings and the same
Passion and drive.
Yeah, passion, drive, ideology, and so forth. I mean, it makes a huge difference, and that's important.
I suspect that probably if we got you back here in the mid-30s, you'll still be selling houses in Attleborough.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
What else are you going to do, eh?
Apart from run. Not much more, and I'm always trying to get out of housework and practical DIY around the house.
There you go. Thank you for your time today, Tony.
Thank you very much, Chris.